Hello, everybody. We have a special treat today. We've got Carol Gyzander, James Chambers, and Ty Drago here with us today to talk about the super, really awesome Ghosts and Ghouls and Other Creepy Things Kickstarter, which is fully funded already, which is amazing, but there are so many cool things ahead that we can still go for. We're going to talk about those. But first, let me introduce these amazing people, which most of you are already familiar with. I'm going to start with James Chambers, who is doing the editing for Eyes of the Dead with, James Chambers. Sorry, just checking my notes. And James has received the Bram Stoker Award for the graphic novel Kolchak the Night Stalker, The Forgotten Lore of Edgar Allan Poe, and a 3-time Bram Stoker Award nominee. He's the author of the collection On the Night Border, described by Booklist as a haunting exploration of the space where the real world and nightmares collide, and Resurrection House, and the dark urban fantasy novella 3 Chords of Chaos. Publishers Weekly, I'm a little jealous, gave his Lovecraftian collection, The Engines of Sacrifice, a starred review and called it a chillingly evocative. He edited the anthology Under the Twin Suns, Alternate Histories of the Yellow Sign, which is amazing. That's an amazing book. His newest collection, On the Hierophant Road, received a starred review from Booklist. Recently released through Raw Dog Screaming Press, Moonstone Books recently published his new Kolchak novella, Kolchak and the Night Stalkers, The Faceless God. And his website is at jameschambersonline.com. And that is going in chat, so you can go check it out yourself. That is very impressive, James. I'm, a little bit jealous, so we're going to get rid of you in just a minute. Now we have Carol Geislander, who is the co-editor of Even of the Grave, which is one of the books we're going to be talking about. She writes and edits horror, dark fiction, and science fiction. Her stories are in over a dozen anthologies. A recent story, The Yellow Crown, is under the aforementioned Under the Twin Suns, Alternate Histories of the Yellow Sun, from Hippocampus Press. This weird historical fiction anthology, edited by James Chambers, who we just met, explores the madness of Robert W. Chambers' classic work of weird fiction, The King in Yellow, which was published in 1895, and those under the sway of the Yellow Sign. She's the editor of Writer Punk Press, where she's edited 4 charity anthologies of punk stories inspired by Poe, which is awesome, and classic horror. Their latest anthology is Taught by Time, Myth Goes Punk. You are a woman after my own heart, by the way. Just want to say this.
Excellent.
She is one of the co-hosts of the monthly HWA New York Galactic Terrors online reading series. And if you have never attended one of those, they are awesome. And she's co-coordinator of the Horror Writers Association HWA New York chapter. As HWA chapter program co-manager, she helps support chapters in the entire U.S. for the HWA, which is very impressive. And you can find her at carolgyzanderauthor.com, and that link is going in chat, so you can go explore her yourself. And last but not least, we have Ty Drago, who is the editor of Rags, which we'll also be talking about in a few minutes. He's a full-time writer and author of 10 published novels, including his 5-book Undertaker series, the first of which has been optioned for a feature film. Yep, jealous again. Torque, a dystopian YA superhero adventure, was released by Swallows in Publishing in 2018. Add to these 1 novelette, a myriad of short stories and articles, and appearances in 2 anthologies. He's also the founder, publisher, and managing editor of Allegory, a highly successful online magazine that for more than 20 years has featured speculative fiction by new and established authors worldwide. Ty has currently just completed The New Americans, a work of historical fiction and a collaborative effort with his father, who passed away in 1992. That's wonderful, and I'm sorry, but that's an awesome project. If that last sentence leaves you with questions, it does. Check out this podcast legacy, the novel writing experience, to get the whole story. He lives in New Jersey with his wife, Helene, and 1 cat and 1 dog. And I am sharing that link. And now that the housekeeping is out of the way, welcome, you guys.
Thank you. And thank you for making us sound so wonderful.
Yeah.
You are wonderful. What I really wanted to do was say, they've done some stuff. It's okay. But let me tell you about my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with myself right now.
You should be. All of you should be impressed with you. and this Kickstarter. Let me share the link for that. We are here to talk about this Kickstarter that's already full funded. But wait, before you start going, oh, well, it's fully funded, I don't need to be here. There are so many cool stretch goals up ahead that you want to stick around and look at this. Right now, they have 17 days to go with this, and a whole lot of really awesome prizes, one of which I kind of would like a demonstration of this. I don't know if I'm going to get a demonstration, to see a blood curdling shout out, at some point. I would love to see this demonstrated, but we'll wait for the.
Do you want to come back to that? Maybe towards the end? Yeah.
And I'll let you guys.
I don't want to break any speakers,
No, I have more efficient means of curdling blood.
Science.
I was going to say, what chemical compound is that?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, guys, to talk about this. I'm super excited about this. This is going to be a great collection. There's 3 books that is in this Kickstarter that you guys are working on. And the massive list of names that you guys have in these books is pretty impressive and incredible.
Well, the fun thing about it is that Jim and I work together to co-edit Even in the Grave. And we've got 20 authors who are friends of ours doing ghost stories. But each of them have their own books that they have written that are in there. Do you want them to tell a little bit about those books first? What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
That might be a neat way to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's make Jim go first.
Okay,
I was like, who's going to go first with that?
That's it. Oh, that's what I get for sharing my secrets about curdling blood. But so the Kickstarter campaign includes 3 books, Even in the Grave, which is the anthology Carol and I co-edited, and it includes Rags, which is Ty Drago's 10th novel, which I just found out today that it was number 10. So Ty is officially in double digits.
Nice.
And it includes the 4th and supposedly final novella in my corpse fauna series called The Eyes of the Dead. And I'm really excited to see that book finally hitting the streets, so to say, being let loose in the wild. I started the corpse fauna cycle almost 25 years ago. And it started from an idea for an 8-page comic book story for a one-shot comic my friend Christopher Mills and I were going to produce in like 1997 or 1998 called Zombie Hell. And we had been doing a book called Shadow House at the time, which we co-created with a bunch of comic book artists like Dan Brereton and Pat Broderick and Kirk Van Wormer and Fred Harper. And we wanted to do something with zombies because there was a point. I know it's hard to believe now in 2022, but there was a point where zombie stories were not super popular, where you could not throw a rock and hit a zombie comic, TV show, book, or whatever. And I write a lot about this in my afterwards for the various books. And back in that day, if you wanted more zombie fiction, you had to make it yourself, and that's what we were going to do. And for various reasons, that comic never happened. But around the same time, an editor asked me for a zombie story for an anthology and for a chapbook. And so I took the germ of the idea for the comic story and wrote what became the first story in the corpse fauna cycle, The Dead Bear Witness. And from there, it just kind of spun on into more stories, unsuccessful effort with another publisher to get, with 2 other publishers to get all of the stories out and complete the cycle, until finally Spec Books and their NeoParadoxa imprint came and said, let's do some books about the Walking Dead. And here we are, the 4th book in the editor's hands, in production, and I'm really thrilled to see that finally come around.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we can actually blame you for the zombie movement then. It was you guys poking around, starting that.
I'm pretty sure there's a few other people who probably had a bigger influence on that.
Come on.
But
you're Jim.
I was certainly happy to ride that wave over the years. And my zombies are a little different than the traditional Walking Dead of the movies and TV shows. So I had a little fun kind of putting my own spin on it.
Let me just say, you have to be very careful to keep your eye on them, right? Yeah. You read the books, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, that's not a good thing to say right now, because now I want to disappear and go read. except I have to wait. So, how about you, Carol?
Well, I have worked with Jim on our anthology of ghost stories, Even in the Grave. And Jim was the one who came up with the idea and said, let's do something spooky. And so I said, oh, yeah, I'm always in for a good ghost story. So we basically just asked a lot of our local friends if they'd like to put stories in. And we have so many fabulous things that we've brought in. It's not just your typical ghost stories of, a haunted house and rattling chains in the closet. We do have those. But, we have a lot of other interesting stories in there as well that take place in different periods of time, different locations, different, we have a male view, we have a female view, we've got a little bit of political stuff in there. We have something for everyone who likes ghost stories. So I'm really excited to have the book come and see the light of day.
Awesome.
It's going to be lots of fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad you didn't forget the rattling chains, because it is like, yes, it's a trope that's overused, but you still have to have it. I mean, it just, it just has to be there. How about you, Ty? You're doing Rags. Can you tell me a little bit about that and the authors that are in it and how that came about?
Well, it came about because I've known Danielle McPhail forever, and but a couple of years ago, I went to her with this science fiction novel I thought she'd like, called Dragons, which is a kind of a genre bender. There it is. And she picked it up and really liked it and published it for me. And then when I started posting on social media that I was almost finished with Rags, she came out of nowhere and said, "Ooh, let me see it, let me see it, let me see it." So that was very flattering. So I sent it to her, and the rest happened from there. Rags is basically a horror story set in 1982 in the last week of the life of Steel Pier. Steel Pier, for those of you who don't know, haven't seen Boardwalk Empire, it was a enormous pier. In its heyday, it went a half a mile out over the ocean, mostly indoor, had world-class shows, headliners, that sort of thing for decades. Slowly started to lose its momentum in the 70s, and by the time the casinos started popping up in the early 80s, it was derelict. And in December of 1982, it burned down. To this day, the circumstances of that fire are a mystery. Well, I come up with what I think of as a very unique and imaginative explanation for that fire.
Dragons?
No. It's actually the story of a teenage orphan who's in a crowded but loving foster home who has an obsession with Steel Pier. She's a creeper. If you've ever heard the term. People who sneak into old abandoned buildings to explore, not to steal things, but just for the ambiance, the historical sense. And while she's in there, she comes across an entity that she calls Rags. That is mysterious, incredibly violent, and seems determined to protect her. And she needs protection because there's some nasty things coming her way. So that's generally what Rags is about. Really excited about it. I grew up in New Jersey, so I've been to Atlantic City 1,000 times. I remember the diving horse. I remember Steel Pier in its heyday. And I remember it when it was dying. Now there's a new Steel Pier there. It doesn't look anything like the original.
They had a diving horse.
They did. They had a diving horse. Or somebody realized that is a really awful thing to do to a horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody ever asked the horse.
Nobody.
I actually didn't know there was a name for it, creeper, but I do that all the time. If there's an empty building and I can squeeze into it, that's the thing to do, is you go see what's inside. Yeah. So now I know there's a name.
There's a name. It's going to be called creepers. Yep.
Yeah, I think my favorite time was when it was during one of these conventions and we found wet footprints in there with us. So we were kind of, both of us girls were like, oh, there's somebody else in here. Very cool. Let's get out.
Time to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Time to go. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to call you Angela Eureka Creeper Smith. Okay.
You can do that. I would be flattered by that, which is probably explains a lot of my social issues in grade school.
Yeah. Can I just throw in a mention? Several folks have shared excerpts of their writing through the social media that we're doing. And I have not read Ty Drago's book, Rags, but I read that little excerpt and I'll just take a look at it. It's like, I could not stop till I got to the bottom of it. It was so exciting. You had a really cool scene that you shared. So yeah, I
Oh,
can't wait
that's
to see the whole
awesome.
book.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about all of these. I mean, this is such a cool, and I'm coming in late into this, just kind of discovering it, going, holy cow, where have I been? I mean, I know where I've been, but it's kind of nice to come out of the closet and see all this cool stuff. And to know that I still have a chance to get in on this, because while you guys are fully funded, there's still a lot of cool stuff to do and some time to do it. Like the limited edition hardcovers. I thought that was very cool. You guys are going to commission cover art from Glenn Ostringer and Lynn Hansen if you meet your stretch goals, which are on that. And then there's just a ton of extra materials, stories. I was so excited to see Linsner in there, whose name I forgot now, even though I know
Gordon,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. And all that kind of stuff. Do you guys want to talk about some of the cool stuff that's coming up from that? And I'm actually going to share the artist link so people can go look at this.
Yeah, let's talk about the art.
Yeah.
Jim, you want to start?
Yeah, Glenn Ostringer is an artist that I know from going way back to my heydays in writing and publishing comics. We met at a convention and we stayed in touch, and when I had a chance to bring the Corpse Fauna novellas back into print, he was really the first artist that I thought of for covers, because he's got such a wonderful classic creepy horror style. If the comic industry were something different today than it is, if it was more like it was back in the 70s and 80s, Glenn would probably be up on a par with artists like Bernie Wrightson and Frank Frazetta in terms of what he can do with horror art. He's just an amazing artist, and that he agreed to do the covers was a huge thrill for me. So he's done all 3 covers and is working on the 4th, I think. I mean, he's got the manuscript, so we're hoping that everything comes together and the stretch goals are hit and the stars align, that we get a cover from Glenn. And I do encourage you just to go check out his website if you like horror imagery, because he's got a ton of cool stuff up on there, including a really funny mock-up magazine cover inspired by Jaws, which I know a lot of us love. So
the shark coming up from the bottom with the swimmer on the surface.
Yeah.
No, he
ridiculously big shark.
This is Quint. It's
Quint.
Like a magazine cover feature about Quint, and Quint is on the cover.
Oh
So
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's a cool image. Yeah. And I was excited. I suggested to Danielle that we take a look at getting Lynn Hansen to do some covers for us. I met Lynn at HWA StokerCon first at Women in Horror panel, and we became friends. But I've loved all of her work. She used to be a filmmaker. Now she does beautiful art and covers. And as a matter of fact, this shirt that I'm wearing, I can make it talk even. This is a Lynn Hansen image. Yeah, with the skull. And such. So I'm really hoping we can get some of the covers by her, because they are gorgeous. I actually will buy a book that I know nothing about because it has a Lynn Hansen cover, because they're just that gorgeous.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I'm hoping for Lynn too. Down to getting enough backers. So
yeah.
Get out there, people.
Yeah, the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat, and it will continue to be in the chat.
Well, a couple of the stretch goals I'm really excited for, and I think Ty is probably on the same page. I'm really hoping we get the limited edition hardcovers.
I would love that.
For Corpse Fauna, what makes that stretch goal really special, I think, is that it will be the complete Corpse Fauna cycle in one book.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So if we hit that stretch goal, that book will be produced and published in hardcover. It will include all 4 novellas and all of the associated short stories that go with it.
By the way, if it does, I'm getting that and you're signing it.
Yeah. I know where he lives, Ty. I'll meet you over there. I'll pick you up. We'll drive over. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And they're not even the stretch goals are not even that high. Like, these are very attainable stretch goals.
Absolutely.
I was looking at the Tuckerizations, which there's only one of each. So if you want to get on a Tuckerization, you have to get it. You guys want to tell me a little bit about that? Because I thought that was kind of cool. If you want to get to make the book, way easier than actually writing a book. Okay, I'm like, for I think it was $125. I can get my name in this book. That's easy. I can do that.
Yeah.
I
Well, I think we
Tuckerize a
have
lot.
two very special Tuckerizations, one offered by Ty and one by me, but they're essentially, really it's more than a Tuckerization. It's you will be the story,
Yes.
right?
It's
I
very
think Ty,
personal.
is that how yours works as well? Where
Pretty much, yeah. I offered
Yeah.
a gruesome death.
okay, yep.
That is cheap.
People like to get murdered in
$125 to be
books.
immortalized
Well,
in death.
these are a higher level. The 125, I think you get
Oh.
in the story, but we're also offering at a $300 level that I think we're each going to write a specific short story
Yes.
featuring the backer's name and names of their choosing.
Aha.
So
I
it's
usually
like
charge. Yeah.
it's like a group Tuckerization, and it will be almost like a custom short story that you would be starring in.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and they'll be published I know mine, if anyone takes us up on that, will be published in the Eyes of the Dead. Ty, where will yours be published if that one goes forward?
Daniel's asked me to do a rags short story,
Awesome.
and
Cool.
for a future anthology, and so yeah, that's where the Tuckerizations will be from that one.
Yeah, there's only one each of those.
It's such a bargain because I usually charge so much more than that to cause gruesome random death. Oh, wait.
I do it for free.
Yeah, no, that
I
would
may
be so
actually
much
say,
fun.
listen, what do you want your name to be, and do you want to die or not?
Yeah, get a bunch of your friends together. You can all go at once. How cool would that be?
That's awesome. Well, the FBI is on their way to Carol's house right now, so.
What do you mean on their way? I think they have a van stationed across
I have a
the
parking
street.
spot for the white van right outside. I have a circular driveway. There's room to park. It's fine.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask, I wasn't sure why it's called Tuckerizations. Just like what is the link to that? Like,
You know what? That's one of those answers I know, but I can never remember it when I need to know it, and I always have to go back and refresh my memory, and that's like, oh yeah, that's why. So I would have to say we need to Google that one.
yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we could just credit Mr. Tucker or Miss
Exactly.
Tucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So that's a Google assignment for everybody.
Yeah.
I want to point out that the lowest backing is just $1, which is that gets you Appeasing the Restless Spirits, which is, I kind of feel like we should pay $2 to ramp them up a little bit, but $1 to appease them is good, especially on some of those weeks that are crazy. And one of the other things, I think it's $12, you get a blood curdling shout out at the back of the book, which I thought was very interesting. I'm definitely doing that. I'm doing more than that, but does anybody want to demonstrate a blood curdling shout out? I mean, I know it's in print, but.
No, if we do an audio book of it, it would sound something like this. Ay, thank you, Angela. Right?
You guys are doing an audiobook now, right?
Now we are. Yeah.
And Carol has to do all the shout outs. That's awesome. All right.
And there's one other fun backer thing. We have quite a few people that have supported the campaign already, but when we get to 100 backers, we will send each of them, or everybody who participates, a digital copy of the anthology Taught by Time. No, what are we giving? I'm babbling myself here. What are we giving for the first one? I have several anthologies that I put up here, and if I hadn't opened my mouth, I would have said Hideous Progeny. That's the one. Hideous Progeny, Classic Horror Goes Punk. That's the one I mentioned that we did through Writer Punk. It's a bunch of classic horror tales, Dracula and Frankenstein and others that have taken a punk twist. There's steampunk, cyberpunk, all sorts of other kinds of punk. It's a charity anthology that I edited for Writer Punk Press, and we our beneficiary is a no-kill animal shelter out on the West Coast. So we will give this away free, but I'll also make a donation to our charity because we're giving the books out to folks, instead of somebody buying them. So it's a win-win all around.
Yeah.
So we need 30 something more backers, and then everybody gets a copy of that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. I'm actually looking at those right now. And then 150 will receive, if you receive 150 backers, it's a digital copy of Jim's 3 Chords of Chaos. 200 backers, and in 17 days, I think you guys are definitely going to reach these. They will receive a digital copy of Stephen Van Patten's Brookwater's Curse, Killer Genius, or Hell at the Way Station.
Yes.
All good choices. Yes.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
of those.
So
Jims or Stevens. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, and then even in the stretch goals, you know, there are a lot of levels where we unlock short stories and ebooks by many of the contributors to Even in the Grave. I know Ty has at least one short story that is. What is your story about, Ty? It's called.
Well, the first one's already been unlocked. The first one was already unlocked. It's called.
Oh, I missed that. Oh yes,
yeah,
there you go.
I see that. Yep, at
Nice.
2,100, and then there's an art piece added to each book.
Yeah. What are your short stories about?
I'm sorry.
What are your short stories about that?
Pearl's a horror story about a murderer in some dark, scary prison who's going before a parole board, hoping to get some kind of respite from the torment, and has to explain himself to some very, very creepy parole people. That's all I'm going to tell you about that one.
Ooh.
The other one that hopefully we'll get to it and that'll get released is called Reflections of Montalato. And it's basically a retelling of the Cask of Montalato, but from Fortunato's point of view.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
From
All right, we have to get to that goal because the Cask of Montalato is one of my favorite Poe stories, and I need to read that.
Yeah, and Fortunato never did get a say in that. You know, yeah, he's a crucial piece of that story.
Well, you know, you guys probably realize that Poe is near and dear to my heart as well, but that's one of our later goals as well for $6,500 level. Everybody pledging $5 or more will get a digital copy of the anthology Merely This and Nothing More, which is Edgar Allan Goes Punk. That's another one that I edited for Writer Punk Press. So we've got a bunch of cool Poe stories that have been punked in that same way. So there's no surprise here that we all love Poe, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, go figure. Go figure. A bunch of horror writers. Yeah. You guys have so many cool stretch goals. I'm looking at it. I'm just going to list off a few of them. $3,000 if you guys reach that. Produce a limited edition hardcover of the complete Corpse Fauna, which we've talked about. All backers pledging $5 or more, which is really nothing, will receive a digital copy of Robert Atone's Bear Hands, but that's BEAR hands.
Thank you for clarifying. That would be an entirely different kind of horror. We're not going there.
Robert is one of our contributors for Even in the Grave.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I love this title from Teal James Glenn, Gin and Tonic, but gin like genie, gin.
That one's a great story. It's a great story. I know that one.
Yeah.
Love the puns. Obviously, that is like kind of a thing that I am super attracted to. Animal shelters and puns. I'm there. Those are my two things. We've got, what else? Even in the Grave, Lynn Hansen. There's just a ton of stuff over here. So if you pledge more than $5, you receive all of these. If you guys reach those goals, like $6,000, all backers will receive. So you pledge $5, and then you get all of this extra stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you could, if we, depending on how well we're funded, you could receive an avalanche of fiction.
Yeah.
Reading materials for the next year. Yeah, so for $5, you could get the next year reading free. Well, for $5,
so,
that's pretty much
You know what
free.
I think the best approach would be, if you're limited on funds, donate the $5 and then go tell all your friends about the Kickstarter, that they can back it as well and help push the numbers.
Yeah, and
I'll just point out that my writing assistant is here too, who's made an appearance. It is now an official online production. Yes, we do write with a black cat.
Yes. What are we going to do in live panels when we don't have our animals anymore? All right. What can we? When are these coming out? Like, what's the estimated kind of release goal? Like, we are funded. You guys are funded. Everything is moving forward. Now we're just talking about the icing on the cake. When can everybody kind of expect to see these in their hands?
Rags is June 1st.
And
this June 1st?
Just around the corner.
Wow.
Yeah, Ty's book. Now we're doing a two-step thing for Even in the Grave. We're doing a little pre-release launch at a science fiction convention, I hope, in March, but we're going to release it a little bit later in July or August for the official release because we need time to get our ducks in the order and such. And then Jim, Eyes of the Dead is likely September, right?
Yeah, so Eyes of the Dead will be coming out a little later in the year. The novella is done; it's in, and Danielle and I have just been talking about some extras, and so I think I'm going to do a little bit of writing to add some bonuses to the final book, and we'll get that out later this year.
Awesome. We have a question from EF Deal. Heliosphere, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, F is asking, is that Heliosphere? And yes, that's a convention in New Jersey, March 25th, I believe. So come find us there and see a little bit more about the book. By then we will be completely funded and we will be overflowing with rewards.
Cash sticking out of every pocket, books flying everywhere.
That's it.
One of the things that we kind of missed that I would like to talk about is eSpec Books and the NeoParadoxa imprint. I wasn't familiar with them before this. I'm sharing their link. Can you guys just tell a little bit about who eSpec Books is and this imprint that they're doing? Because it's kind of nice to have a newer horror publisher kind of on the horizon or coming up.
Yeah. Jim, do one of you guys want to talk about eSpec, and then I can talk about the imprint? Maybe we do that.
Yeah. I'll jump in. I guess. And Ty, this might be the case with you too. I don't know, but I've kind of been associated with eSpec Books since the beginning. I've known Danielle for many years and had contributed a lot of stories to anthologies that she edited for other publishers and to projects that she's put together. And I think at one point she just sort of realized, hey, she and Mike McPhail, who does a lot of the cover designs and produces a lot of the cover art, could do this. Yeah, there's a great example. Could do this on their own and kind of take it in the directions they wanted to go. And they teamed up with Greg Schauer, who I don't know if many people know of Greg. He's maybe he's supposed to be like hidden in the background. I don't know. Sorry, Greg, if I'm blowing your cover, but Greg is awesome. He for many years ran a bookstore in Delaware called, I'm blanking now if it was Beyond Books or Between Books. Oh boy, I'm sorry,
Something
Greg.
with books. Okay.
Yeah, but it was a wonderful store, and we did some signings there over the years. And I think most recently, author and editor John French has joined the team. So they have slowly been building this eSpec Books imprint. And it started out to continue some of the anthologies that they had been doing, like the Defending the Future series and the Badass Fairies series. And they put out some best ofs and launched some new science fiction anthology series and things like that, and started going, into novels and novellas. And I think it might be my fault that they branched out into horror. Danielle is not a horror fan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
she was not originally a horror fan. Yeah,
right.
Between books.
Thanks. Yes,
okay.
F just confirmed my memory lapse there. Between Books. Thank you. Yeah, it was such a wonderful store, and I know Greg is still working on something with Between Books. I'm not sure of its current state, but and they had some interest in the Corpse Fauna books, and Danielle read them, and she was like, I hate zombies, these scare me, but I can't stop reading your zombie stories, so okay, we'll go ahead and publish them. And there we are. So we've started down the road for horror a little bit. I know she's done some other things in horror, and she's got Ty's novel coming on. And when Carol and I were thinking about where to go with Even in the Grave, Danielle was one of the first people that came to mind. eSpec Books was one of the first publishers that came to mind, and we thought, well, maybe this would be a fit there. And it turned out that they liked it for their NeoParadoxa imprint.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the imprint itself is pretty cool. It's just come about a couple of years ago. And I remember Danielle talking about when this was all going on. They were approached by the folks who were responsible for the Cryptid Crate subscription box. Now, you probably know that a cryptid is something like Sasquatch or Bigfoot or some large, possibly real monster. We're not sure.
There's no evidence to say otherwise.
Yes. And so the Cryptid Crate people have a subscription box plan where you subscribe and you get a box in the mail with a whole bunch of really cool stuff about a particular cryptid or about a topic. And so the subscription folks asked them, did they have any cryptid fiction that they could use in these boxes? And Danielle said, well, no, but we could. So from that conversation, the eSpec folks came up with the whole NeoParadoxa imprint, and they crafted a whole cryptid series of novellas called Systema Paradoxa. And they were intrigued. They get exclusive content. They have quarterly exclusive boxes. The content is created specifically for those boxes based on the cryptid for that month. But then once the imprint was created, eSpec saw the potential for, we could do some other stuff with that. They're focusing the NeoParadoxa on cryptids, paranormal, horror fiction, and it's the perfect landing place, really, for all three of the titles in this campaign. Ghost stories and Ty's really fascinating, creepy, dark thing. That's a new genre. Fascinating, creepy, dark thing. Yeah, and Jim's really exciting zombie stories. So I'm really pleased to be working with NeoParadoxa, and not to mention cryptid novellas. So.
That's awesome.
Of which Jim has one and I have one coming out.
Well, and thank you guys for forging the path for new horror. That's always, I think, the best compliment when somebody's like, well, I don't really like scary stuff, but I really like this. Oh, and there's eSpec is in chat right now.
Hey.
So we're talking about you. Hopefully your ears are ringing.
I'm sure those ears were burning. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, so thank you for that, because that's always awesome when somebody's like, yeah, I don't really like horror, but now I do. So one of us.
Well, I don't know if it went quite that far. I'm not sure that Danielle likes horror.
Yes.
But she has certainly agreed to publish horror, so I'll take that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, come to the dark side. We have cookies,
and everything else, and bodies to hide. So, all right, I'm going to share the Kickstarter link. We're almost out of time. I urge everybody to get on over there. I'm getting over there right after this, and I'm going to at least do $5 so that I can get all the cool stuff. But definitely more, because I might want to get in one of these books and not actually have to write one, watch somebody else do the work. That would be awesome. Get some limited edition hardcover art from Lynn Hansen and Glenn Ostrander. I mean, there's just a ton of awesome here.
Yeah.
And
I have one more thing to add, because we were talking about those who like horror and those who don't. Some folks are not as big a fan of horror as we are, but that's one of the cool things about this Kickstarter, because there are so many books. All the books from the other eSpec catalog are available as options that people can choose as part of their rewards. So
yes,
and the range of horror ranges from pretty light, accessible horror to Walking Dead with a little bit of gore kind of horror. So Ty, where would you say Rags fits on the horror scale?
Well, people say write what you know. I didn't write what I know here, because if I wrote what I know, I'd be deeply disturbed.
Oh, you're not? Oh,
okay. Not as far as you know. But Rags is meant to be scary. I used to, when I was running middle grade horror, I used to tell people I scared children for a living. But the fact of the matter is, though, I had parents coming to me saying, "Thank you so much, because my kids will actually read your books."
Oh, that's awesome.
That's key.
God help us, there's more to life than Hatchet.
Yeah.
Kids. And so I like to think that Jim is right. There's a gamut in horror. And while Rags isn't zombies eating people stuff, it's definitely on the scarier end of that scale. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
And scary.
And thank you for kind of pointing out to me, like reminding me that there are other books not horror in this lineup, because I do tend to focus more on that and forget that the rest exists. But yeah, there are other genres.
Well, that's why I like you, Angela, because you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, focus in on the
Yeah. The dark stuff. Yeah.
So, yep. And we have a comment from eSpec saying that you can have a customer reward for those who want a special combination.
Ah, yes.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
and I think F just volunteered to be on a future show.
Ah.
She has a personal rag
I'd love to
story.
hear the personal rag story.
Very cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay.
So
Repeat
here
performance.
we have the part 2 of this coming up, where we hear this personal rag story. But I want to just take a minute to hear from all of you guys, the people that are making this happen, not the only people, but some of the primary people here doing this, the hard work in the trenches. And tell us what you guys have coming out from you and what we can look forward to, and where can we find you. So how about, who wants to start?
I'll go first, because I just have a few things I can mention. I have some short stories coming out that I can't say anything about, but I do have a cryptid novella called Forget Me Not coming from our series that we just spoke about. That's coming out in April. And I can't say any more about it than that, but please
Nice
keep your
little
eyes peeled.
tease there. Nice little tease. And I'm going to put your website, but if you want to find out about that, you can probably find out about it on your website, right? CarolGyzanderAuthor.com.
Yep. And it's also
the
on
future?
the eSpecs, the square one.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a pre-order up even. Yeah.
Oh, great. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Okay, well, if you're interested in my writing that isn't horror, check out Dragons on the eSpec website. It's a lot of fun, very adventurous book. I'm kicking around the idea of doing an audiobook. I'm in negotiations now for a 2-volume deal for New Americans, which is the book I collaborated on with my father.
Oh, beautiful.
The way that worked was my father in 1992 passed away from cancer, but before he died, he left a series of cassette tapes in which he outlined a novel based on my grandfather's storied life as a bootlegger. And I finally got around to writing the novel. Deeply emotional and very personal project. But so there's that. I've got another one I'm just finishing up called Checkmate, which is near future sci-fi, kind of a retelling of the Scarlet Pimpernel that haven't quite figured out where that's going to end up yet, but it's close to complete. So that's what I'm up to.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I can't wait for that. I've shared your links in the chat, so that's where we can watch for that news of that coming out.
That'll be definitely announced there. It's also on tydrago.com if you guys want to look for that.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. And then how about you, James?
Well, I hope one of the things I'm doing in the near future is reading the New Americans, because that sounds like an amazing project. So
it really
good
does.
luck with that one, Ty. Yeah. But I have a story that coming out in an anthology that was just announced called 13 Haunted Houses from Weird House Press. And I wrote a story called Eddie Boy for that. It's edited by Joe Morey and Curtis Lawson and features quite a great lineup of authors, including Ramsey Campbell and Sarah Reed and Philip Fracassi and a whole bunch of people that I'm excited to share pages with. And, lots of other stuff in the works that I'm working on some more Kolchak stuff. I have a story in the 50th anniversary graphic novel anthology celebrating Kolchak the Night Stalker, which was another Kickstarter project which just closed and funded at something like 4 or 5 times its goal, and was like the 7th highest funded comic book anthology project on Kickstarter.
Dang.
So that was a huge success, proving
That's
what
awesome.
I have suspected for many years, which is that Kolchak might be more popular now than he was in 1974 when the show was on. So
It wasn't appreciated.
no, but we love him now, and so that's great. I will not forget the bunyip, Danielle, I promise. But I also just want to give a quick nod and thanks. Much gratitude to the contributors to Even in the Grave.
Yes.
It's an amazing list. If you just get over to the Kickstarter campaign and check out the list of authors who've contributed to that, it's really quite a varied list of authors who've brought many different ghost stories to the book. And Carol and I had an absolutely fantastic time working with all of them. They were very patient throughout the period in which we were working on the project, which took a little bit longer than we had originally anticipated.
Scooch bit longer. Yeah.
They're a great group. They brought their best to the classic idea of a ghost story and brought so many different ideas to it. So I'm really excited to hear what readers think about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I thought was so cool is it is such a varied list of who's who in the genre, but also the surrounding genre. It's not the same names, but all the good names are there. And then there's so many other names, like interesting names. And it's going to be an amazing project.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
It's been just so much fun to work on and really fun and wonderful to work with Jim. So
that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for telling us all about it. I urge everybody to get on over to that Kickstarter and donate at least $5, but check out the really, really cool stretch goals. And that is what I'm going to do as soon as this is done, so I can get in there and get on this, because I missed the first day. And I missed all the beginning stuff, but it's never too late.
It's never too late. There's still time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, did you guys have anything else or that I forgot, or did I miss anything that you guys want to share?
I just want to say thank you so much to you for spending some time and talking with us.
This has been fun.
What's going on with you? What do you have coming up? Can we ask you?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff that I can't remember right now because I just wrote it all this week. Brain dead.
Fair. That's fair.
One of the things I have been doing, kind of my passion project this year, is doing just free classes online of the things that have helped me the most as a writer. And then I'm just sharing them every Saturday at my website, which is angelawysmith.com. And so that's kind of, and then we've got Tortured Willows and Unquiet Spirits is coming out next year, which is kind of the follow-up, a nonfiction to that. And and I can't remember what else I'm supposed to talk about or not talk about. So
we'll have to do this again so you can tell us all about it.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll let you guys host this time, and then I'll just sit with my chihuahua.
Yeah.
We'll ask you all sorts of interesting and awkward questions.
Yeah. Hey, can you give us what is it? The in shout out, or I can't find it in my notes now.
Oh, the blood curdling shout out.
The blood curdling shout out.
Turn, Angela.
But Carol, you did such a good job on that. It really needs to be an audiobook now.
Oh, sure.
Just for that.
No problem. And I just see one last comment that eSpec Books added for us, that we have an extra special bonus we will be announcing soon.
And where that'll be on the Twitter, probably that'll be in the Kickstarter. Where are all the places we can look for this bonus?
Yes, I would say Twitter, on our website, look for social media. We are all over Facebook as well. We do some things on Instagram. So
awesome.
Follow,
and all of those are in the comments, and I will put them in the description as soon as I'm done here.
Yes. Yeah. So
I told Danielle she cannot have my left kidney.
She's already got the right. Oh.
Have you ever known Danielle to take no for an answer?
Back was turned lights went on for a second and it's gone.
I took a nap after that tea.
Well, Angela, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, guys. Good luck with this. I got to make sure I get in on it. And let's do this again with updates.
Cool. Oh, you are a gem. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Angela.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. Get yourselves over to that Kickstarter link in the comments. Link will be in the description. Make sure you pledge at least $5 to get all the amazing good stuff that's coming. So
cool. And thanks for everybody for coming to listen with us. This has been fun.
Yeah. All right. See you later.